Hello and welcome back, adventurers. Today we take a look at a specific kind of spell, form spells, because I want to answer a question that, I'll be honest, I'm a little curious about myself. And no, I haven't gone and examined what other thoughts were on this, so maybe I'm the only person who asked it, but I gotta ask, are form spells worth taking and using for a caster, or a full caster, mind you, right? And what drove me to here is, well, we've got this class with the druid, right? And one of the things druids are often depicted as being good at is transformation. And we have a specific subclass with the untamed, all about transformation. But they're not the only ones who can use these spells or transform. They just have a special, unique way to do so, which then, of course, brought around all the questions in my head as I'm ranking the videos. I'm looking at these foreign spells, trying to decide if I think they're interesting at all. So what I'm hoping to answer through a couple of videos here is, are form spells worth using? And if they are, which one should I use? And if I do, what does that even look like in game? So we're starting with a basic question here. Are form spells worth taking? What do I mean when I say form spells? These are the polymorph spells that have a specific template. Examples of what I mean are things like animal form, dinosaur form, dragon form, monstrosity form, avatar. So you notice most of them have form in the name, although not always. Well, I want to take a look at these spells, and as we go through them, get into the nitty gritty of each one of them, what the value they might have, and what we're trying to do with them. But first, let me bring one up to kind of show you what I mean as far as having a template that we follow and what it's all about. So here on screen, we've got the animal form spell. You'll notice that it has the polymorph trait, which means that you can only be affected by one polymorph effect at a time. So if somebody tries to cast one on you, it has to counteract this one first. And same thing if, well, anyway, we'll get to the rest of it. Attacks that are granted are magical. You can't cast spells unless otherwise noted by a specific form. You get no item bonuses for anything you do, because your gear like absorbs into you. You still gain the passive effects from gear minus item bonuses, but you can't use their active abilities, right? So an item might give you a passive +1 to your athletics checks, great, but if you had an on use that's a drop to fireball, you can't do that. And finally, you can't use actions with the manipulate trait that require hands unless your GM says you can, right? So you might be in a form that clearly has hands, the GM can hand wave that, and you're okay. Cool. Oh, and of course, if it's going to change size, meaning you change size, you do have to have the space in order to change into that size. So you can't turn into something gargantuan when you only have a 10 by 10 room to do it in. That's just not going to work. But that's all just built into one trait. But it helps this all kind of make sense. As we go down the details here, while in animal form, we are medium size, have the animal trait, and we can dismiss it. And that'll be very common. We'll be able to dismiss these if we want to. We get to decide the animal. So, it's definitely not just flavor here. Like, they have specifics to them. You'll see them down below here. There are animals you're actually choosing from. But before we get to those specific animals you're choosing, we have the AC that you get while in this form, because you're not going to keep your armor on, right? You get a new AC. In this case, the animal form, your AC is 16 plus your level. That is the level you are as a character, not like the rank of the spell. Then you get 5 temporary hit points when you transform. You're going to get special senses a lot of the times. In this case, with animal form, low light, and an imprecise scent, which is cool. You're going to get an attack modifier that is specific to the spell and the spell rank that it's being cast at. In this case, we have a +9 to the attacks that it's giving us, and it getting a damage bonus to those attacks of a +1. This will look a little bit different in some of the pre-master spells, though, just so you know. There will sometimes be strength-based and sometimes dexterity-based attacks. Those matter for condition purposes, so, whether you're clumsy or enfeebled, that affects depending on what kind of attacks you have, but it also affects the ability for you to supplant your own +2 attack rating, which we're about to get to, in. So you can use your own +2 attack for your unarmed strikes in these forms if your unarmed attack rating in your regular form is higher than what they grant you, right? So we're getting a +9. If for some reason in our regular, like, human form, we have a +10 or something with our unarmed strikes, then we can use +10 instead of this +9 that the spell gives us. And then finally, we get a +9 to athletics, unless ours is higher. Yours might be higher, but they usually give a pretty good plus to athletics in a lot of the forms. When we get down into the form entry, we see the rest of the details. Almost all form spells will have various creatures you can become. I don't think there's any that just has one, so you're going to get at least 2 choices always, usually a lot more than that. Here, for instance, we have the ape up first. We're going to have a regular move speed, if we choose this form, of 25 feet. We'll also get a climb speed of 20 feet. Our only melee attack we can use is the fist. Again, we're an ape, so it makes sense, which does 2d6 bludgeoning damage. But remember that it gets a +1 because the form, or at least at this rank, this form spell gives us a +1 to our damage. So if you're a caster using the spell level 3, meaning you're casting it with your highest spell slot at rank 2, you would be able to use strikes at a +9 chance to hit and deal on average 8 damage, which isn't terribly far off from a martial at specifically this level, depending on what they're using. Also, when you heighten these spells, it changes certain numbers, as you can see here. So looking at our heighten, then got all the heighten ranks listed all the way up to rank 5, right? We've got ranks 3, 4, and 5 all here. And we get our increases within there. So we're going to get temporary hit points, AC, +2 attack, +2 damage, plus athletics. All these things are going to go up as we heighten. Not necessarily every time we take a step in heighten, but at least they're going to go up when we heighten. And for other forms, there may be other things that increase as well. Also, at some ranks, we might get increased to our size, the reach of our strikes, and maybe even our speeds sometimes. So it varies, but there's a lot going on with the heightens, and it's very important. So that's what you should expect when we look at these different spells and what they're all about. The higher rank spells will have sometimes more interesting forms, more abilities, ranged attacks, all sorts of different things in there. But you'll notice something very specific about the forms, and this brings up the question of, so do I think it's worth even taking any of these? Well, what is the purpose? It seems to me that the purpose here is to change into a form that allows you to wade into melee combat or ranged combat. Anyway, act as a martial while being a full caster as well. The way they work makes them absolutely terrible for anybody other than a full caster to take. So let's say, for instance, you took a multi-class archetype for one of the spellcasters. You're going to be so far behind in spell ranks that the numbers here, they don't just go up with you. I mean, AC goes up and uses your level, but your plus to hit and all that stuff, they don't just go up. They have to have heightened ranks to be better. Unless you're keeping at rank with a full spellcaster, you are not going to have good enough progression for these to be worth it most of the time, unless you have a very specific use in mind. So we don't want these as martials, or anybody who's taking a slower progression to spells. That's just not something you want. Even as a spellcaster, you probably don't want them if you're a bounded caster, because you don't get a lot of slots. Talking about like full casters with all their slots, all their progression, those are probably the most likely to want to use this. But even if you do have that option, you are a full caster, why are you taking this? You're taking it because, again, you want to wade in alongside your martial allies. You want to be able to play both. It's a style of Gish in a way that you can have spells out on the battlefield, and then you can change form and go in and fight alongside with everybody else, whether it be in melee ranged or using some of the other abilities, but you're wading into that martial side of combat with your full caster. It fits a very specific kind of fantasy that you want for your character more than anything else. So if that's the goal, and we want to use these form spells to be able to wade in along with martials in martial combat while being a caster, are they actually any good at doing that? Because if they're not, well, they're pointless, right? That's their only value. Well, not their only value, but we'll get into it. So I would say that really the answer to this depends on, well, a few things. Which form spell are we talking about? And assuming you are a full caster, because again, that's the only people this is worth it, are you a druid that took the untamed form focus spell, either by taking the untamed subclass or by taking a different subclass and then taking the feat at level 2 that lets you grant you access to defeat another subclass, and that can get you untamed form as well. Either way, you can get untamed form. So you're either a druid with that or just any other caster. Those are kind of our two buckets here. And then we have to look at the individual form spells because they are not created equal. For those of you who don't know about the druid subclasses very much, first of all, I've got some nice videos you can go watch about them. Go watch druid videos. We'll talk about the untamed. Anyway, the orders are the subclasses for the druid, and there's one called the untamed order. If you get a hold of the feat that's granted at first level for the untamed order, you will get the untamed form focus spell. And what this does is it grants you the ability to use some of these form spells with a focus point instead of using your spell slots, but you have to take feats as you level up to give this focus spell access to more forms. Now, not only do you just get to use the form spell with this, right? And this is a 2-action spell, just like all the form spells are. Your 2-action spell that just uses a focus point again, which is very nice. But there's a little added benefit here, which says that, well, a couple added benefits, but a big one here is if you use your own unarmed strike modifier instead of whatever the spell grants, you actually get a +2 to that attack modifier. So let's say I have, as a untamed druid, a +9 to my unarmed strikes normally, and then I change into animal form with its +9 to strikes. Well, I can use mine. They sound the same, but because I used untamed form, I actually get a +11 to my strikes, not a +9, which is significant and can definitely come up for druids, and it lets you scale in a way that others don't scale. Like other full casters won't scale the same way an untamed druid will. A few other things. Untamed druids at level 1, they can turn into pest forms. These are not combat forms, so, not a big deal there. Anyway, we'll get into some of that. And when it heightens to 2nd rank on its own, there's no special feat to take. You just get animal form added to the list for you. So you do get a little bit upfront for free. So you'll be able to start changing forms, including into combat forms, starting at rank 2 spells with level 3. So as we go forward and we talk about these form spells, I will make mention if druids with the untamed form can actually get special access to them, meaning you can take a feat that adds it to your list to be used with untamed form. More importantly, if the stats of the form are going to fall behind regular martial characters, though, in base stats significantly, then we're really not going to be able to find a lot of use from them. So I'm going to talk a lot about that as well, because they have to keep up with martials, or I'm not really sure there's a point trying to wade in with them. So obviously prepping for this, I went through all of the form spells myself, made a nice little spreadsheet for myself to compare martial values to spellcaster values using forms and all of that. Lots and lots of little details put down in spreadsheets. Very boring, but very necessary. So hopefully I can keep this mostly correct, but we'll see. I'm going to assume that everybody is grabbing the appropriate hand reps of mighty blows when available, by the way, and that your marshals are keeping up with all their potency runes and all of their potency runes in their armor, and so are you. So there's a lot of assumptions built into this about how everybody's kind of keeping up with their level that the item's normally granted for, or else a lot of these numbers I throw out won't make a lot of sense. But we'll just assume that, and if there's anything special I have to bring up, I will bring it up. But we are trying to stay at peak. The other thing is when I'm comparing to martials, I'm not comparing to fighters or gunslingers that have that extra training. I'm comparing to all other martials, and I'll call out if I've got a difference between martials and near martials being martials where either dexterity or strength is not their primary attribute. All right, that feels like a lot of setup, but let's go ahead and dive in and start to see if any of these form spells are actually worth using. I am not covering them all in this video because there are a lot of them and we would be here forever. So I'm kind of covering the first half, meaning up through rank 5. And in the next video, I will cover ranks 6 through 10, because yes, there are some all the way from rank 6 to rank 10 as well. But starting off at rank 1, there is just one pest form. It's unique that this is not a combat form at all, and lasts longer than usual forms do. So you get this by default if you've got untamed form. This will last 10 minutes, unlike other forms that just last 1. So this is a recon form, right? This allows you to turn into an insect or a mouse or a house cat or something, and lets you just go check things out. It's very cool, and I think it's awesome. I love that you get it with untamed form by default. I think using forms like this for recon are so interesting, but not the focus of this video. Nice having your back pocket, but I'm not going to focus on it. So let's go ahead and dive into animal form. We already took a look at this, but let's go ahead and bring it back up and talk some numbers. This becomes available at level 3 for full casters, and for druids, it's automatically part of your Untamed form when you upcast, meaning heighten, that Untamed form spell, which happens automatically because it's a focus spell, up to rank 2. At level 3, a full martial, again, not a fighter or gunslinger, is looking at an attack modifier of, generally speaking, a plus 10, which is plus 3, which is plus 3 from their level, plus 1 from a potency rune, plus 4 from their maxed out attribute modifier, and plus 2 from their training, meaning they are trained. That same martial could have as high as an AC of like 21 with no shield up, without any special items necessarily. If they're a monk or they've got training in plate armor you've got or something like that. So you can have up there, but usually you're sitting more like an 18, 19 at this point. Now, obviously, this is going to ignore all the abilities, feats, features, all that stuff that martials could have. I'm looking at straight numbers because it could be any number of martials. So don't think at all I'm saying that you are equal to a martial if the numbers work out. I'm just trying to say, can you wade in with a martial and your numbers hold up so that you don't embarrass yourself when trying to join them in martial style combat? That's all I'm trying to talk about here. Also, assuming that a martial is going in with high damage strength build and a two-handed weapon, saying they're using like a D10, for instance, because that's more common, they're coming in with like a 9.5 damage at this level on average with a strike. This obviously changes depending on weapon, so I just, again, use that D10 just so we have that baseline for us. I'm going to worry less about damage comparison and more about attack and armor and things like that as we go forward, but I will still bring up damage at least for the forms, and of course, scaling damage happens for martials as it normally does. When we look at the animal form, we see numbers that aren't too far off, right? So a +9 to hit for the average spellcaster is fine. It actually might be what they have if they buff up and grab the right gear and stuff at this level. Whereas an Untamed Druid, also assuming they're keeping up with strength or dex, strength in this case for animal form, it would be a +11 they would have in the form because they have a normal +9 and they get to use their own, makes it a +11. And this is actually above the average martial at this level. So you actually have a higher chance to hit and crit than the average martial does here at level 3. The AC provided by the form is 16 plus your level, so 19 for casters, which is probably higher than the average caster would have. It's not amazing. You could have higher potentially. It's just, it's not amazing. It's definitely below what you're going to see from plenty of martials at this level, but not all martials. So not amazing, but not terrible. For the damage, I'll just take like the highest damage that a form can give us for comparison's sake. And in this case, that would give us an average damage of 10 on a successful strike, 2d8 plus 1. So these numbers, they seem okay. Though non-druid doesn't quite keep up, the druid certainly keeps up and even is a little ahead on some basic number grounds. We do get some solid possible movement speeds, which I really like, because it's some of the time what we're looking for is the added benefits here. We've got high land speeds, we've got climb speeds, depending on the animal. So there's versatility there. We've got, no flying things here because that's different forms, but we've got some decent options. Of course, we get the temporary hit points, which are really nice. Not amazing hit points, but it is something added, because remember, you use your own hit points when you go into these polymorph forms. You don't normally get changed in any way. It's you, in this case, was temporary on top. So we just have caster level of hit points. If you're a druid, that's 8 per level, which isn't bad. If you're something like a wizard, you're looking at less than that, so keep that in mind. But if we want the effects to keep up, we need to always make sure we are heightening the spell and using it at our highest spell rank available, or else we're going to fall way behind and the numbers almost never make sense. If we never heighten the spell, our damage will never increase. Our AC will still increase, but it'll start to fall behind because we do get more boosts, like flat boosts, in the future. Also, our plus to hit will just fall off immediately. We'll be unable to hit anything. With that in mind, when I talk about the caster increasing in level, I will assume you're always heightening the spell as much as possible for your level, or else none of this actually works out. So just keep that in mind. All of those numbers I provided, some will increase as we heighten, but do remember that they won't get any special buff between heightens. So you are level 3, it's rank 2, you're at the start of rank 2, great. This also heightens at up to rank 3. So when you hit level 5, you'll get a nice little boost, but at level 4, you're not getting a boost. Your AC will go up. And if you're using your own attack modifier, that'll stay up with you, right? Druids especially get a nice boost here, but other numbers don't change. Your damage doesn't change, movement speeds don't change, size, none of that until we heighten. So, not bad, especially with animal form. We're starting out with something that's a second rank spell that can heighten to third, fourth, and fifth ranks. So let's see how it holds up across those ranks. At third rank, we see our AC getting a small increase, which mostly helps just keep up with attribute increases or potentially a potency rune increase for marshals. So nothing crazy there. The plus to hit increase is massive, going from +9 to +14. That is a 5-point jump over 2 character levels, which is kind of insane. An Untamed Druid and any other caster are really on equal footing because there's no way your Untamed Druid has, beyond a +12 to their hit at this point. So everybody's at a +14 who's casting it at third rank. And yeah, that's really good. You look at marshals at this level, and that just matches the plus to hit for marshals that we have at this level. So that's fantastic. The Druid will help stay up, though, at level 6, because, at level 5, we hit the new rank. At level 6, other casters will slightly fall behind. Druids will not, which is really nice. The AC boost is enough to keep up with, non-defensive marshals as well. We're not, sitting real high with, plate wearers, but we're doing okay. The extra damage is now, instead of +1, a +5, which is a boost, but it's not crazy. Boosts our average damage on a hit to 14. The marshals pulling probably a 15 or more now. 15 is, I think, pretty much on what we should expect. So they're slightly ahead. We fall slightly behind, but it's still close. So our numbers are still working out okay. And we do also get a bit of a temporary hit point boost, but that's really about it. So that third rank, massive in our chance to hit. Other things are subtle in their changes. Moving a little faster as we heighten to fourth rank, basically just going to keep up with marshals on our plus to hit. And as a druid anyway, keeping up. Some other casters might be falling behind a little bit here. Our AC also basically keeps up. And the damage boost helps as marshals get their boost at level 7, right? They're going to get a straight up damage boost. We get a little to keep up with them as well. But we're also going to become large, and we're getting a 10-foot reach on our strikes. And this is a big change, right? A marshal, if they didn't use a reach weapon already, probably still don't have a reach weapon. We can now use our reach. And for somebody who doesn't really want to get hit, because even if our AC is okay, we still don't have a ton of hit points, we will like to keep some distance. So we get a really solid boost, the reach anyway, and our damage is okay. Everything else is basically just keeping up. And finally, we heighten to 5th rank. And this is much the same. Keeping up with marshals on our plus to hit and our AC, that's all doing fine here. The druids are doing better than, untamed druids I should say, are doing better than other casters. The size is the same, but the reach is now up to 15 feet, which is honestly really far. Right, a 15-foot reach is really good. We threaten a big area now. Another 5 temporary hit points. Then we get the damage. Now we get our damage boost reduced from +9 to +7, but we're doubling the damage dice. So now we've got up to a respectable 25 damage on a hit. And hey, we're, level 9. It's actually not bad. So this does outclass plenty of marshals. We're doing, on a flat numbers perspective, pretty good here, actually. And now that I've built it up, here's the gut punch. This doesn't heighten after rank 5. Once you hit level 11 at most, you probably don't want to use this ever again. You won't get extra boost to keep up. Your damage will fall behind. You won't grow in size or reach. You might still want the abilities a certain form provides, like a swim speed or a climb speed. So don't just miss it completely. But then again, we'll get better forms that have better abilities like those different kinds of speeds and flying speeds and all sorts of things too. So is animal form worth casting if you're willing to max heighten it? Yeah, I think if you want to get in and fight alongside marshals at ranks 2, 3, 4, and 5, yeah, I think you can really do it here. Like, this is legitimately keeping up numbers-wise with marshals. You don't have any of the cool abilities they have, but if you set up some nice, party buff or something, or some sort of battlefield control and then wade in as this, you're going to feel like you're doing pretty good. You aren't falling behind. You're actually holding your own alongside the marshals on your team. Now, it's true, they all have probably more hit points than you, and your AC is on the lower end with some of, your non-defensive teammates out there, but you should still be able to hold your own. And you can stay in the form or not as you need to, which is really nice, deciding round to round if you want to stay in it. you could probably stay in it for an entire combat pretty easily and feel good about how that went. So part of what I want to do is, though, pop through the various form spells and talk about which ones are worth taking at each rank for druids and for non-druids alike. Then I'm going to go through and jump into every form that we have, right? So that at the end I can wrap up with an idea for everybody here with a chart or two. Hey, this is what you might want to take, and upcast at every rank. So let's go ahead and get through the rest of the forms so that you guys get a good idea of which forms are actually going to be worth taking, what they look like, and which ones to avoid. Starting with insect form next. This is a 3rd rank arcane and primal spell, keeping in mind that animal form is primal only. And yes, there is a feat you can take to add it to your untamed form options if you want to as a druid. There's a problem with it though, but we'll get there. You can see it on screen now, but you notice that many similarities with the animal form. At 3rd rank, which is 5th level, we actually have a slightly lower +2 attack than animal form did, with only a 13 instead of a 14. But untamed druids will still have a +14 if you're keeping up with all the numbers and gear you need. So there's that, if they used untamed form, that is, to transform into it, which they can't at level 5. And I should probably get into this real quickly before we go any further here. For all of our untamed forms, let's say that the spell for the form becomes available at the odd level. It's only the next even level you can actually add it to your untamed forms. So at level 5, rank 3 when this comes online, you'd have to use a spell slot to cast it. Whereas starting at level 6, if you take the related feat, now you can use your focus points to get you there and get that extra buff. So just something to keep in mind, you're always lagging by 1 level. So it's the ones that heighten really well that you get the most value out of adding with a feat. If you'd only use it for, say, 2 levels, like level 5 and 6, it's probably not worth the feat. Okay, so back to what we got here. You do still have decent damage at 13 on average with the highest damage option, but that's a debuff from animal form still at this level. They try to make up for this with a higher AC. Your AC at level 5 would be 23, which honestly keeps up with all except for plate wearers for the most part. And then add in 10 temporary hit points, which is the same an animal form would have at this point. And it's the slightly more defensive, slightly less offensive option. As we heighten to 4th and 5th rank, we become large and huge respectively, giving our attacks 10 and 15 feet reach respectively. We get more temp HP alongside animal form. We did catch up on the +2 attack with animal form, but also then kept up AC with animal form, because animal form catches up on AC, so they become pretty interchangeable. The damage here is slightly lower than animal form had. Honestly, with animal form being essentially the same, with an AC trade-off only at rank 3, but the higher damage, I don't see any reason to take insect form. It's kind of a side grade at best, so, certainly as a untamed druid, probably not worth the take of a feat. And for other casters, if you were primal, probably just keep using animal form. But if you were arcane, this could be a decent option. See, I told you we'd move faster, I promise. We got stuff to get through. Let's keep going. Next up, we have Ooze form. This is another rank 3 spell, but it's for arcane and occult casters, so no druid thing here. Also, it is pre-master, so there are a few slight differences. Nothing crazy here. The AC, though, is crazy low, and that's not what I was talking about. At only 7 plus your level, meaning everything will hit you and will roll high enough that they will crit you. But you might not care because you have immunity to critical hits, as well as precision damage, and even visual effects since you don't have eyes. You also get resistance to piercing, slashing, and acid damage. You, instead of eyes, get a motion sense out to 30 feet, which means you detect nothing beyond 30 feet away from you at all, but you can even detect creatures breathing up to that distance. You get a massive 20 hit points for this rank. It's a ton, but keep in mind that everything that attacks you will hit you, so that will get chipped away pretty fast. You get the +14 that animal form had to their hit, which is really great at level 5, and some decent attack options. And your damage can even be pretty decent, but the high damage option is actually the least interesting of the bunch, because there's some really cool things to do with affecting, other creatures' mobility stuff with other options. And then we have the move speeds, which are terrible. You are a melee creature with a move speed that can't keep up with anything. Maybe it won't matter because they'll come and find you, but if not, you'll never reach them, ever. When we heighten, we see the usual 4th and 5th ranks here in the heighten options, but we also have an 8th rank heighten option, which is fun to see on here. The 4th and 5th rank increases our size to large and huge, like we had with insect. We get reach increasing, like our other forms. Our talking modifiers are standard at this point, exactly what we saw before in our other spells, which we know is solid. Thankfully, we get an upgrade to our sense distance, a massive temporary hit points improvements, resistance increases, but no AC boost. But that's because they already planned on you just getting hit and would be crit by everything. So we are meant to face tank the whole way through this build. I do like that this is an interesting counterpoint to animal form. It's very different from that. But keep in mind, even with the temp HP, your starting health underneath that temp HP is always going to be not that great because you are a full caster. So taking all these hits could still be a big problem. Again, after level 10, because it's heightening up to 5, after level 10, you're not going to want to touch this until possibly level 15, when you heighten to rank 8 and now have a plus 28 modifier to your attack roll. How does that stack up to martials? Well, our average martial with the standard increases will be at a 28. So we're actually on par at level 15 itself. We won't keep up, and even at level 16, we will find ourselves slightly behind, actually behind by 2 because of the way that progression goes for martials. And obviously our AC is garbage. What is really interesting is that we get to be gargantuan at this point, taking up 4x4 squares on the grid, that is no joke. And we have a 20-foot reach. So we threaten a lot of the battlefield, and suddenly our slow movement speed isn't that important. We're not going to, put out particularly amazing damage, but it can be okay. And there are still some really good control options with some of the strikes that you do here. Our temp HP is a massive 60 at this point, and our resistances are really strong at 12. Does that make it worth it transforming into this at this level? Well, we're going to have to look at our other comparisons for 8th rank later on. We'll have some. It's not something to completely dismiss. The really bad move speed hurts, but hurts a lot less when you threaten this much of the battlefield. So at least I would say you occult casters out there, this could be interesting for you. I'm not so sure about arcane, but it could be. Who knows? We'll see when we get to some of our 8th rank comparisons. Let's get back to our druids, though, with aerial form. This is arcane and primal for 4th rank spell, and yes, there is a level 8 feat here that you can take, so you can add it to your untamed list, and it adds the, some of the aerial forms here. Not all of them by default, but it'll add some of them. This form is about just getting flight in combat, and yeah, this is also the spell rank where you get access to the fly spell. We could pretend like that's shocking. It's not. They came online together at the same time on purpose. Anyway, we start here with the same AC that we would get this rank for animal form, which is nice. We just get far less temp HP. We will also see that we get the same plus 16 to attacks that we have gotten from animal form, but we do have lower damage, only doing 14 on an average hit here. So really, this could supplant animal form just because of flight, if that's really what you're looking for. The speeds here are good, getting up to 50 feet of fly speed with the bird form, which is really great, and you do get that one added to Untamed. What holds this back, though, is the fact that, animal form of this rank actually has reach on their attacks. You don't. And that does really hurt, especially with the lower temp HP you're getting on here. You might really need that in order to get away with coming and striking and leaving. So, that's probably just good balance, right? Or else it'd maybe feel too strong too early, and why wouldn't you just take flight? Because most enemies aren't going to be flying. You're not going to get to default kill because you have to go in and strike them. Anyway, that's just something that we have at base rank of 4. When we heighten this up to 5th and 6th ranks, because we have those 2 options available here, well, 5th does the usual plus to hit increase, but also adds, 10 feet of flight speed. Don't ignore that. It's the 6th rank heighten that gets really interesting, because now we have, not only more flight speed, plus 15 feet speed, which is cool, our attacks have a 10-foot reach. So now if you're fighting melee enemies that don't have reach, you can basically default kill them from above, which is actually a huge boost to this form. The damage upgrade is good. We also get a boost to AC, coming 21 plus our level, which feels really good. It puts us just behind plate wearers at level 11 when it becomes online. Once again, though, I probably wouldn't use this beyond level 12 unless I just needed a way to fly, and that's one of the very good reasons we might change into a form that's older, is just for its ability to get out. But other than that, I probably wouldn't use it because nothing's going to keep up after level 12, right? Once you hit rank 7 spells, you're going to feel that you're falling behind. So the druid will keep up on the +2 attack, but nobody else will, and it's just going to be okay for anybody else. Worth it adding to your druid untamed form list? Yeah, probably. And great, especially at that level 11 rank 6 turnover when you've got that extra reach and you can fly around and just kind of default kill weaker melee enemies that don't have reach. And this brings us to our other rank 4 spell, which is Dinosaur form. Again, this is primal, and again, yes, you can take a feat at level 8. So if you're going to take the feats, keep in mind you've got 2 competing feats here. I really love the feeling of this form. The AC and plus the hit are the usual suspects at this point for rank 4, and we get the same hit points that animal form will get, temper HP that is. You are large, and the different dinosaurs offer different attacks, including one with a reach of 15 feet, which is honestly pretty crazy for this level and this spell rank, but it will get steelier, I promise. The damage here matches animal form. All in all, this is fairly interchangeable with animal form at this rank, so you might not really need to grab it, at least not right away, but you do have some things that are slightly improved here. The rank 5 heighten also keeps us in line with animal form, but with slightly better reach on one of the forms than animal form would have. It's really the heighten at rank 7, because we go from rank 5 heighten, then we have a rank 7 heighten. Rank 7 heighten is different. First, we are gargantuan, like we saw with the rank 8 Ooze, 4x4 on a grid. That's big, right? This is really great. Then we have a crazy reach, at least with one option, of up to 25 feet. This means you can threaten a 14 by 14 squares on the grid, and of course, height-wise, up 7 up from the ground. This is nuts. At this level, you've also got a plus 25 to hit, which is on par with near marshals and only 1 behind full marshals at this level. We get 25 temp HP, and our average damage is 33 on a hit, which is a really good, solid damage hit. It's not crazy, but it's solid. I just like how utterly massive you are, and how you can threaten so much of the map with just changing shape, right? You could have been just a regular person, and suddenly you are a massive dinosaur that can hit somebody on the other side of the map. Yes, it does fall off for all but untamed druids after level 14, but it does give you something to do after animal form if you're not looking to fly around, that is, with aerial form, because even aerial form would have dropped off after rank 6 spells. So, cool, we've got some different options here, all available to druids, but to more casters than that as well. Ooh, our final rank 4 spell, I almost forgot about this one, is Fey form. This is for occult and primal casters. There is no druid feat for this one. It's interesting. There are 5 creatures to become, and 1 is large, while the others are medium. You get a great AC for rank 5, which is 19 plus your level. That's like martial plate levels right now. The plus to hit is what we're used to, getting the standard here. You get 15 temp HP, our standard for this level. You do have weakness to cold iron, so, don't use this if the enemies have cold iron weapons, I guess. None of the options hit particularly hard, but they're not that far behind animal form. The problem is we have no height. This just is a rank 4 form spell and does nothing else. So this is only good at 7 and 8, so after 8, this is going to fall off real hard, real fast. Maybe because it was never remastered, or maybe because they just didn't want you using it too much. I don't know, but, it is what it is. The forms don't have anything particularly interesting other than the movement speeds also, so honestly, this one's a pretty easy pass for me, maybe for a cult, but Primal has better things to do. All right, and I'm going to end off today with our rank 5 form spells for this video, because we're already running pretty long here, but I do want to get into these. First up, we have Aberrant form. This is just for a cult, and it is a pre-master. You are large, with every form having at least 1 reach attack by default. Your AC is the standard 18 plus level for the rank, and we get our plus 18 to hit that we get for all the heightened to rank 5 spells. The movement speeds are mostly pretty good, and you do get dark vision, which you'll see more and more is just the standard, but here it's still nice to have. The damage is, though, lower than we see with something like animal form or dinosaur form, so it's okay, but it's definitely lower. There is a heighten at 6th rank, which is really nice to see. We get to move up to 21 plus our level in AC, which is really solid. We get a plus 22 to attack, which is better than aerial form got, and puts you in line with full marshals and above near marshals for the level. The damage boost is fine, but really won't blow your mind. You get a very strange plus 26 temporary hit points. Don't know why. And now you're huge with 15-foot reach. That feels good. Since that's solid reach, you don't really want to get hit, although you have decent temporary hit points. Anyway, this is honestly a pretty fine option for occult casters looking to transform and will last you, for 4 levels. So, yeah, I think it's a good option to think about if you are an occult caster wanting to change form. I like it. As we get back to forms that druids can get access to, though, we have elemental form for arcane and primal casters at rank 5. This does have a feat for the untamed druids out there if you want to be able to add it to your list. The AC here is high, like the Aberrant, at 19 plus your level. We get the usual plus 18 attack. We get dark vision again. That's going to be very common, like I said. We get less temporary hit points, though, at only 10. The damage we have varies a huge amount. But is generally lower than we had with animal and dinosaur forms. The difference here is that we have multiple damage types, which means we can possibly trigger weaknesses, which of course we love to trigger. We also have incredible options for movement, including a silly fly speed, what feels like silly right now. We'll get to some really wild stuff in our next video, with 80, so that's 80-foot fly speeds, and we don't trigger reactions if we took the air that has that speed option, which is really cool. We've got swim options, burrow options, climb options. Depends on what you're changing into. Lots of different movement options here. And then, of course, we have resistances with the different forms, as you'd expect, depending on what element you take on. So there's a ton of versatility here. And honestly, it makes aerial form feel redundant because the movement speed options, flight options, and stuff in here are better. Just take air or fire if you want to fly, and I think you're in a better place overall than aerial form. But none of our attacks have reach at this rank. So just keep that in mind. You are having to go all the way up and hit at rank 5. We do have heightened options at ranks 6 and 7. We get a nice high 22 plus level AC to keep us at plate level when we get rank 6. And when we get our size increase, we get a 10-foot reach, and then a 15-foot reach on attacks at rank 7. Our attack modifier goes to 23 and then 25. That 23 puts us above marshals at the level that we get that at, and we are just behind them when we get our plus 25. So this is actually pretty solid. Our damage catches up to other forms and even pulls ahead at rank 6 and ties Dino at rank 7, so that feels really good. The fact that we have half the forms are dex and half our strength also helps work out for different druids. So if you want a high dex build, because you want an aerial form to be boosted up with its attacks, you can also get some options here. But if you want strength, you've got options here as well. I like that it kind of made up for whichever direction you wanted to take. So you can keep that plus attack extra high for untamed druids, because that's all it really matters for. All around, with the exception of wanting to threaten 2 battlefields at the same time, elemental form is generally just better than animal, dino, or aerial forms at rank 6 and 7 at least, but probably at rank 5 as well. Minus, of course, the damage at rank 5. But honestly, this just becomes a much better form in almost every way. Our final form at rank 5 is plant form. This is primal only and does have an untamed druid feat. We get that now standard 19 plus level AC, but only plus 17 to attack for some reason. I don't know why it's lower. You also get an unusual 12 temporary hit points, and there are exactly 2 forms to choose from. One of them is faster with decent reach, okay damage, and you can speak in that form, like use regular speech. The other is extremely slow. You can't speak, but you can auto grab for an action after landing a hit, so that could be nice as well. While this superficially feels on par with something like elemental form, and the grab is interesting, the lack of versatility and one form being Ooze levels of slow just really hurts. This has a rank 6 heighten. It's the only heighten it gets. Increases to huge size. You're going to get that 22 plus level AC, but again, you only have plus 121 to hit. I don't know why it's lower. Your damage is very solid here, but it didn't make you move any faster. You do get another 5 feet of reach, but that reach and grab are really the only reasons that you have like any tricks to play here. I may be alone in this, but as a druid or another primal caster, I'd probably just ignore this option personally. I just don't love it. So looking back at today, Forms really do feel worth taking if you want to wade into melee combat as a full caster. They do keep up on numbers. You're not going to pull any crazy tricks up your sleeve with what we've talked about today, but you could threaten an entire battlefield. You could fly. You can deal all sorts of damage types. So many options are available for you depending on which ones you pick up. I really do think that if you're going to take a form spell and use your highest level slot for it, at least one of them, you'll find that sometime in the day you'll be able to get in and have a lot of fun playing that if that's the type of character that you really enjoy. In the next video, we are going to go ahead and jump in at rank 6, level 11, to talk about the rest of our form spells. Looking back at today, great primal options, really solid arcane options, some interesting options for occult. Divine, yeah, no, you got nothing so far. Don't worry, Divine. We'll get there. You'll see plenty of action in the next video. So stick around, check out the next video, catch up, get the rest of the form spells out there. I'll get some suggestions out there for you. If you're looking to use form spells on your character, are you excited about the forms? Do you think they hold up? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, adventure on.